So grateful to be here and very happy to discuss these incredibly important and hard to talk about topics. He has an incredible backbone and staggering moral fiber. Howie is totally committed, completely ethical, totally admirable. No pressure if you can hear this, but honestly, Howie's a hero to me.
John, you joined us before, and it was a pretty incredible kind of testimony you gave, and you just devoted your life to advocacy for child trafficking, and even 9/11 truth. Maybe you could explain to us, in the last decade, what do you think the most challenging parts of coming alive on some of these issues have been?
Probably the hardest thing, and it continues, is just realizing that pretty much everything that I was told and taught since I was in grade school is probably not true.
Once again into the breach, dear friends. Is everyone present?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, JT. Hi, Howie. This is Elle, and I hope that I just hope there are as many people as ever have been listening to this edition of the Traffic Report. We have talked about the historical context for this cancer at the center of our world. We have talked about Rome. We have referred to the Vatican. We have mentioned who took Johnny. We have talked about the finders. We have referred to the keepers. And always these things have been abstract. But it isn't abstract. It's very real. And it's happening right now. And it's necessary for everyone who's aware of it to tell another one about it. And the most important testimony, the most critical courage in this fight are the survivors who are able to come forth. And it so happens that tonight we have such a resilient, such a brave, such a courageous, such a regular person who survived this with us. And I feel goose pimples all over in the presence of Becky.
I'm definitely in awe.
No pressure, Becky. But
Hi, thank you for having me.
Anyone who was paying attention to the march, or rather the demonstration back in March, who might have learned then about Pizzagate, Howie, who might have learned then about Pedogate, who might have began to research then UN trafficking, NATO trafficking, DynCorp trafficking, might have heard Howie read Becky's testimony. It is eloquent and it is visceral. So if you have not seen it, please look up the Pizzagate demonstration from March of this year.
And it will also be after tonight on our Facebook page for, I've read it. I was reading it myself today, and what an incredible testimony.
And what a badass. I mean,
absolutely.
Well, full disclosure, I consider Becky to be a very close friend of mine, and I love her very much. So it was an honor to be asked to read that at the rally, and I'm just glad that she's here tonight.
Word. Welcome, Becky.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being with us.
We're honored. We're honored.
Do you want to give the listeners just a little background information for those who haven't heard your story?
Sure. So I'm originally from England, but I came across to America in 2015 after being abused and trafficked for the majority of my childhood. Who I consider my mom now, Catherine, she brought me over here after reading a blog interview that I took part in, and I tweeted that out on my old Twitter account, and she found it and read it and believed me, and she brought me over here. That's a brief summary.
Very, very brief summary.
Yeah, that's a brief summary.
Yeah, shout out to Catherine. I actually met Catherine on Twitter before I met Becky, and it just so happened that heard this entire story, and it was just mind blowing. What part of it you grew up in Hull, England, Beck?
Yeah.
What part of the country is that in?
That's in Yorkshire.
Yorkshire. I actually
Yorkshire.
know that. what a
guys,
charming accent.
You guys pronounce it Yorkshire, and it's not.
Right, Worcestershire.
Yorkshire pudding.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you, Becky, reading your story and hearing about you, it struck a real chord with me, because I have family in Scotland, and my mom was Scottish, and I spent a good deal of my childhood in both England and Scotland, and so it was just struck a chord with me, just hearing where you're from and what's going on there. Because as a child, and I was very fortunate. I was I think I was almost molested, because my mom was working for this hotel, and this guy gave me a ride and wanted. The details really aren't important, but I kind of violently reacted against what he was trying to do, and I think that's all that saved me. I was about 10 years old at the time, but never even thought about it over the years. But it's England and Scotland is such a beautiful place with such beautiful people. It's just it really just hurts that what you experienced there is going on and still going on. So I just wanted to let you know I'm down with the UK. So
I know it's a shame. Sorry.
Not at all.
I was only going to say it's a shame that these evil people that exist ruin the beauty of the country, because it is a beautiful country. And if it had not been for those people that had mistreated me, I would have loved my country, but as it is, I don't. It's a shame. It's a shame.
Beck, why don't you why don't we'll end up maybe work our way backwards? But we're talking about Catherine. She read your blog and helped you get to the United States. Why don't you explain that process? Because even knowing you as long as I've known you, I don't really know the full story, and it's actually very interesting, because people that don't know, you're still in the midst of an immigration case.
Right. Well, so it was either November of 2014 or 2015 that I was asked to take part in this and I can't quite remember that lady. I know it was through Twitter, but I can't remember how it came. I was talking to her and stuff. Interviewed me on her blog, and then it was published in February 2015, and I tweeted it out, and at that point, I didn't have many followers. Yeah.
Oh, you were just breaking up a little bit, that's all.
Oh, yeah, it's because I don't have great signal, that Howard.
Ah, okay.
So I posted this blog interview that I took part in my old Twitter account, and that I didn't have a big following at that point, and I was only following people that I actually knew because of safety reasons. I was very cautious about who I talked to because I was paranoid. I worried that they had something to do with Ann and Lee and my biological parents. And but anyway, I tweeted out this blog interview, and I was surprised at how many people, saw it. And it was only a handful of people, but at that time, I was thankful because I'd waited so long to tell my story and to be heard, and I finally was. But my mom saw this post, and it's so bizarre because I wasn't following her. She wasn't following me at this point. And only and mom saw it, and she commented on the blog itself, and then she tweeted me, and she told me that it was a very compelling blog and well written. And I just thanked her, I thanked everyone that tweeted me and commented on the blog and stuff. But for some reason, I just felt drawn to my mom. And I think it was strange that I felt such that strong draw to my mom, and I don't know why, but we ended up talking more or less every day. She knew instantly how much danger I was in, and she knew that she needed to help me. So, and that was in February 2015. And by April 2015, I was on a plane to America. She'd bought my plane ticket. She bought my visa. She really supported me in those few months. She made sure that I was safe, and she was talking to me like all hours. Like, she saved my life, and I make that known to her as much as possible because she really did save my life, and I will always be grateful.
I never even knew that you met on Twitter. I did not know that. Unbelievable.
Yeah, we did.
Who were you living with in England at the time?
Well, I was in a group home.
Okay.
I don't know what you guys call it over here. I've still not figured out what you guys call it. Some people say it's foster care, but it wasn't really foster care. It was like a group home with a few children and people working there, making sure we were safe, but not really doing that. So
we have group homes here also, Becky. So I think they call it the same thing. It's foster care / but it's not like two parents and a foster child. It's a few foster children. Yeah, we got the same thing here. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was done. That's where I was living. But I had like attached to the group home was like an apartment type setup, so I was like independent. That's where I lived for 2 years, but I was still attached to the group home. And like, so I cooked my own meals and I looked after myself, but I was still under their quote unquote care, so but that's where I lived.
And Becky, was that Child Protective Services in Britain? That's who runs these homes?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So you got here. You had. That's okay. You got here. You had the visa. And so, what exactly happens? You get off the plane.
That's a whole different story.
Yeah.
So I get off the plane, and it's funny because just before I came over here, probably like 3-4 days before I, jumped on that plane, I told my mom, I have a feeling that something's going to go wrong. I feel, I have a feeling that something's going to go wrong, like at the airport, not my side, but when I got to America, I had that feeling. And she was trying to reassure me, and then I just like pushed it past my, I didn't think any more of it because I just thought I was paranoid because I was so used to things going wrong. I just thought that was it. And so I fly over to America, and I'm going through customs, and they grill me for about an hour, and then he's asking like a bunch of questions that it was as though he had more information than I was giving him. I can't exactly remember the questions that he was asking me right now, but like at the time I was thinking he knows more than I'm telling him. And I was very guarded with my answers. I was telling him what he wanted to, what he asked for, but I wasn't giving him more information than he needed. And he seemed to have that information already. So he told me that he didn't believe that I was going to go back to England. And I was like, well, I have a visa for 3 months and I have a return ticket. We'd done everything to, by the books. We didn't do anything illegal. We wanted to do everything legal so that my new life would be, I'd be able to just start afresh without having to worry about anything. Plus, I'm not a criminal, so I don't break the law. And so he wanted to talk to my mom because he was concerned that I'd never met my mom. And so he talked to my mom, and I don't know, well, at that time, I didn't know what, he was talking to her about, because he made me go away and then come back after they'd finished talking. And he said to me, once the phone call was finished, he said to me, okay, now tell me the real reason that you're coming across here. And I thought that she'd told him about the asylum, because we had talked about that. That wasn't like definitely the route that was going to go down, but that was an option that we discussed before I came over here, because we was going to look at all options. Asylum for me was not the route that I wanted to go down, but I thought that's what she'd said to him, but I didn't say that. I was just like, well, I've told you why I'm coming over here. I've told the truth, and I hadn't lied. I'd said the truth. I just kept information from him. And anyway, he had the stamp in his hand, and he was about to send me back. And he was like, I was like, no, I can't go back. And he was like, what do you mean? And I said, I want asylum. I can't go back. I'll be killed if I go back. His mouth dropped open. So at that moment, I knew that she had not said anything, and that he had tricked me. He tricked me in telling him the truth. And, they can do that. So he goes back to his supervisor, and he talks to his supervisor for a while, and then they come out, and the supervisor, she says, you have two choices. You can either apologize for wasting our time and we can send you back, or, you can pursue the asylum, but you will be detained. And I thought she was just trying to scare me by saying that, because she was being rude anyway. So I just thought that was, her tactic to scare me into, backing down. Sure. So I was like, no, I need asylum. I'm staying. So in front of all of these people that was sat in this room with me, she brought the cuffs out, handcuffs, and cuffed me in front of everyone. I was humiliated because this room that was silent had now become a room full of people chatting amongst themselves, wondering what I'd done wrong, and my belongings were taken off me, and then I was led to this room just behind this lady, and she'd taken the cuffs off me as soon as the door was closed. So she'd just done that to humiliate me. She just took those cuffs out and put them on my wrists just to humiliate me.
Do you think they knew? Do you think they knew who you were?
Well, I don't want to say for sure, but
right.
I do have a strong feeling that social services, child protection, protective services over in England told LAX, which is the airport that I flew into, about me coming and said that I wasn't going to come back.
Okay.
So I do think that.
You told Child Protective Services in England that you were leaving.
Well, I had to because they had my passport and they wasn't. I tried every avenue to get my passport, but they wouldn't, they wouldn't give me it. I was 18 at the time, so in England I was legally an adult, but they wouldn't give me my passport, so I had to tell them the truth. And I still didn't tell them the whole truth because I didn't trust them. But
sure.
I was detained after being cuffed.
And how long were you detained for?
14 months in a jail facility.
My God.
Unbelievable.
So we have Child Protective Services preventing you from leaving abuse, and we've got our customs officials who regularly let people that are on the terrorist watch list apparently come into this country, but they're giving you a hard time because you may need political asylum due to being trafficked. That's just beyond belief.
Right. I get angry all the time, and especially what annoys me most is when I see these rapists and when I see these pedophiles get a short sentence. I did more time in jail for not being a criminal than they do. I see pedophiles just get like 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months in jail. And I'm like, I did double that time for escaping people like you. It infuriates me.
God, and that story, we just hear that over and over. I mean, just recently, one of the Penn State officials who were complicit in covering up child sex abuse, I think they got months, and they were crowing about how great it was that all three of them got jail time, and we're talking about months, and they have impacted these children's lives for the rest of their life, and they're getting a few months in jail. God, it's got to be infuriating.
So go.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say what. So after 14 months, what did they say to you? You can go?
No. No, it's never that easy. So while I was detained, I went before a judge. I went to court around 6 times, I think. And court was not easy either. They treated me worse than a criminal, I would say, because I had the leg irons on and I had handcuffs on every time I went to court. So I was treated like a murderer. And the first time that happened, I already knew that was going to happen because of the other ladies that I was with in the detention place. They'd already warned me. So I was kind of prepared for it, but you're never fully prepared for, being treated that way. And I remember the first time that my mom saw me, I was coming up the hallway and she was standing outside the courtroom, and I could see that she wanted to cry, but she didn't. And I wanted to cry, but I didn't want to make her cry, But anyway, we went to a judge that is known to be a bad judge. They have a very high percentage of denial for asylum. And of course I get that judge. That's just the way it goes. And I could tell immediately that she was going to deny me. I mean, she was denying these women from Africa that was fleeing persecution. And, Africa Somalia and, there's places that is well known for persecution. And then there's me coming from England, and I'm thinking, no, she's not going to allow me, into the country. She'll think that I'm lying. And when I was testifying, she laughed at me. I started crying because I was talking about things that I'd never openly talked about before. And
Were you talking about things that actually happened to you?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was testifying about, the trafficking, and I think at that point I was talking about children still being harmed. And that's when I started crying, and she started laughing at me. At first she tried to be subtle about, the enjoyment that she got from it, I guess, but then she was openly laughing at me. And I just stopped talking, and she looked at me, and I didn't talk after that because it was such disrespect. I just did not. What was the point in saying anything, because she was going to deny me anyway, and she did. And then in October 2015, I went to court for a bond hearing, and we was hoping that it was going to be a low bond that we was able to pay, because that was the only way to get me out of jail at that point, because my asylum had been denied. I needed a bond that was low that my mom would be able to pay. And before I went up, there was 2 Mexican guys that went up, both with criminal histories as long as my arm. The list was just endless. And one of them got $20,000 bond, and the other one got $25,000 bond. I go up with no criminal charges, come here legally. She gives me $40,000 bail. And I knew that my mom would not be able to pay it because she's retired. And, she doesn't have that kind of money. And I knew, I was in trouble.
So Becky, we got a couple of questions coming over Twitter, and so your mom was in this country, and she was basically your sponsor to get you here. Is that how that worked?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Well, that answers that question.
I can jump in and clear that up. Beck calls Catherine her mom now. Her birth parents she doesn't consider.
Yeah, not her biological mom, right?
Yeah, when she's saying mom, she's talking about Catherine.
So and that was your sponsor into the country. So that's what they were asking. Okay.
Just draw a line under the complicity of the judiciary, of the law enforcement in general. I mean, when we mention Yorkshire, anyone who's done any research at all or has been listening to us for any period of time has certainly heard about Rotherham, which I'm probably mispronouncing. But it is the scene of a decades-long looking away from children being groomed and trafficked. And it's not the only place in Yorkshire which has been a hotbed of this kind of criminality, exploitation, and do nothing on the part of those we trust to protect us. So to hear that this American judge was part and parcel of the exact same, I don't hear you, I won't hear you, it's confirmation of the worst bias on earth, but it's a true bias. Everything is stacked against people coming out, getting out, being helped out, surviving, being heard, being believed. We have such a gigantic problem.
And what we've seen too is these judges are part of these rings, and I would not doubt. I don't know if that's the case in this case, but these networks are global, and it sounds like the word was put out on Becky before she ever arrived here. And how does that happen except through a network? So I know Lori Handrahan in Maine, at least, the judges are complicit in aiding and abetting trafficking, if not participating in it. And I think that's, wouldn't you say, Becky, in the UK, there's a lot of not only the judicial, but the police service that have been involved in these rings?
Oh, definitely. And that's something that I really want to stress. People think that just because someone wears a badge or because they're, in a position of power or authority, that they can't be a pedophile. That is so untrue. Like, I cannot stress that enough. And I am so tired of people saying, oh, that person can't be harming children. Too many people know that that person, they can't be harming children. And I'm like, why? Any child can be harmed. Any child. Unfortunately, that is the truth. It's like, as heartbreaking as it is, it doesn't matter what social class that child comes from, or, what part of the country or which country they come from. Any child can be harmed. So why is it that people still believe that stereotypes of these pedophiles, that guy that lurks around the corner, the scruffy looking guy, he's a pedophile, but the guy in a suit can't be because he's in a suit. We need to get past that. People need to see, people need to understand that it's not true. What they've been told for so long is not true.
That is so great that we can hear this from somebody that's experienced this. People have no idea, and I think that's so courageous and of such value. What you're doing, Becky, to share your story and come out to try to help other people that might be in networks right now being trafficked. They're going to hear this, and they're going to hear your voice, and people need to sit up and pay attention. That this is everywhere. It's going on in every town, and it's going on globally. And just God bless you for speaking out and letting people hear. It's not like this isn't coming from a researcher or a news source or whatever. This is coming from somebody who's experienced it firsthand, and that's just it's beautiful that you're able to do that so effectively. So I'm still in awe. I'll shut up now and let you continue.
You're fine. But I do it because of, sorry.
Not at all.
I just wanted to say I do it because of the children. I would not do this. If I was the only child or the only person that had ever been through this, I wouldn't talk about it because it is painful. As like, people think I'm completely healed, and that is not the case. If you lived with me, you'd know that I am not completely healed. And it's a long process. You never forget. You never forget what you've been through. You never forget it. But I talk out and I speak out and I advocate and I expose these pedophiles because there is still children being harmed. And even if it was just one child that was being harmed somewhere out in the world, just one child, I would still do it because these children, I know what it feels like to feel completely alone and feel like no one is speaking out for you. And I want them to realize, when they get out of that situation, I want them to know that there was at least one person that was fighting their corner and being their voice. And I always say to people that we need to be the voice to those that are forced to be silent, because they are forced to be silent. They can't speak out because they will be killed. These pedophiles have no problem in silencing these children. No problem. But that's why I do it. I don't do it. People say that I do it for publicity and for money and whatever else. I don't do it for that. I don't do it for that.
You've had your share of trolls, right? Your online
hate. Yeah. God love them.
And can you tell us a little bit about that, Becky? Because I found that just infuriating that there are accounts on Twitter set up to disturb you and to make what you're doing harder and to I can't even fathom the reason, but they're there, and they're basically, you're being trolled on Twitter.
And
can you talk a little bit about that?
It's on every social media that I'm on. But it's funny because when I first came out, the first video that I put out, I prepared myself because I knew that I'd, come up against people because I'm exposing pedophiles. So these pedophiles are gonna wanna, protect themselves. And I knew that was gonna happen. But to the extent that it's happened is not what I prepared myself for. And I definitely did not prepare myself for someone impersonating me. I never thought that would happen, but it did. Just recently, someone made a Twitter account and a YouTube account and an account on Vote, pretending to be me. They edited my videos on YouTube and they uploaded them to their own channel. And they made me look like a liar. They made me look like I was just doing it for attention. And strangely enough, they said that I was going to do an interview on ABC News. And I was like, where did that come from? And I was like, I would never. No, thank you. But, oh my goodness, I don't know if this account is still live. I mean, people was going, at first I wanted to attack this account, not physically, but I wanted people, to get on this account and get it shut down. And funnily enough, we know how Twitter is about shutting accounts down that needs to be shut down. They didn't do it. I don't know how many people reported it, myself included, but a lot of people,
I did.
A lot of my followers.
I did.
Well, a lot of my followers reported that account, and some people, I think you, Howard, got something back, a report from Twitter saying that this account had gone against their guidelines, but it was still not taken down. And I was seeing people was tweeting me with a screenshot of, this report that they'd been sent by Twitter saying, that this account had gone against their guidelines, and the account was still up. And I was like, okay, this is the game that they want to play. Okay. But I can't see if it's still up or not because they blocked me straight away. They blocked.
I totally forgot about it.
Oh,
I thought it had been taken down. I'll check it out. But Becky and I had talked about this, that there's different levels of trolls, but when there's someone who makes an account completely impersonating her and is allowed to continue, I just have a feeling that it's on a different level. It's not just some random person. So
Becky, do you want to give out your Twitter handle so people will know the only correct account of yours while we're talking here?
Well,
I mean, we have it. I mean, we can, and we'll tweet it later. But I don't know. Maybe you just want to, while anybody that's listening right now, if they want to go ahead and follow you.
It's Becky BECKI _P20, and it's the same on Vote. That account, the fake account, has an account on Vote, and people believe what they're saying because people know that I'm on Vote. But I made the username the same as the one on Twitter, so there was no confusion. And it's the same on Vote, and then on YouTube it's just Becky Percy, PERCY, not the fake account.
Yeah, your fake account is still up. I just checked it. Unbelievable.
There you go.
Becky Percy USA. Okay. So
Becky, I'd like to ask if
I'll
I
add
may
that to my list.
About the process by which you got out and into the group home. Was that a one step? Was that several steps? How did that happen?
That is very complex. So in 2010, I think it was around January or February 2010, I disclosed to one of my teachers at school about Lee, my biological child. I didn't say about the trafficking. I didn't say about Anne abusing me. I just solely said about him because I seriously believe that if he was away from it, if he was away from me and, you know, the home and stuff, it would stop because he was the leader of it. He was the one that organized it. And I believe that if, you know, someone knew about him, then it would all stop. And at that point, I was 13 years old and I wanted a mom. You know, I wanted Anne to be my mom. I wanted her to change because I was seeing all my friends have like quote unquote normal moms and I was jealous. I was jealous that I didn't have that. And I thought that she would change if Lee wasn't around. And he was removed from Anne's house as soon as I disclosed. It was the same day. And but it still continued. The trafficking still continued, and Anne abused me regularly, and Lee still came to Anne's home. So nothing changed. And then I disclosed to the same teacher about Anne, still not saying about the trafficking because I was ashamed about that. I was ashamed about that. I felt like a prostitute. That's what they made me feel like. And like it was one thing disclosing that, you know, just one person was abusing you, but to say that a whole bunch of people was forcing themselves on you, you know, it was shameful at the time. And I didn't want to go there. And it was a big step for me to disclose anyway, because I was told that I wasn't going to be believed. But this teacher did believe me. And I am so thankful for this teacher because she, at that time, was the only person that believed me. And she really did help me out emotionally, physically, anything that I needed. She made sure that I had it. And so after I disclosed about Anne, I was moved to Anne's brother's house because he was my godfather. He was the one, you know, on the paperwork that if anything happened to Anne and Lee, he would be the one that was solely responsible for me. So I was moved to his house and he was involved in the trafficking. All of Anne's family, apart from Anne's mother, who I love dearly, she's not with us anymore, but everyone on Anne's side of the family and Lee's side of the family was somewhat involved in the trafficking. So I was moved to Anne's brother's house and I was there for a month. And I thought that I could like cope. But I was still abused, you know, he abused me. He was still trafficking me. But I didn't want to disclose again because I was thinking, okay, I've disclosed twice and she's believed me. But if I disclose a third time, she's not going to believe me. But I eventually did and I didn't mean to. It just sort of came out, you know, I got emotional one day and it just came out. And then as soon as I said it, I wanted to take it back, but it was too late.
Becky, I'm sorry to go ahead.
No, it's fine. You're fine.
Did they ever put it together that all these people were involved with one another and go after the network of them? Did they ever get that through their thick heads? I mean, it's just unbelievable. They're moving you from abuser to abuser to abuser, and did they ever put that together? And
they never believed me. They never believed me. And well, I don't necessarily want to say that they didn't believe me, but they did side with Anne and Lee. They sided with them on every occasion.
You're talking about the police and child protection services?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
that story you're telling is not uncommon because that's the trend that we see. I mean, back for decades here that so-called child protective services are aiding and abetting the traffickers.
Would you say they ever did an investigation into them or any type of investigation?
See, I don't believe so. I honestly don't, because when I came out about the trafficking, and that was like, how long? I can't remember when I first came out about the trafficking, but it was when I was moved to the group home. So it was probably like maybe 6 months after I first disclosed. I came out about the trafficking, and about a year after that, I gave them addresses. I went with one of the carers that looked after me, who I felt safe with. I'm not going to say a name just because of, I don't want people going after her. But she at that time did a lot to help me. You know, she also believed me. So, you know, for the 5 years that I was in care, she was very supportive of me. But I told her that I wanted to give the police the addresses of the trafficking homes, and some of them I knew, others I didn't. But I knew 3 of them, and it was traumatic to just even drive past the houses. But I did it because I knew that there was children still at risk, and even to this day, I would do anything to get those children out of that situation. It breaks my heart. I would honestly rather, and I've said this before, and, you know, I would rather myself go through it than any of those children, because, like, the pain of knowing that they're still being abused is far more than anything that they could ever do to me. But I gave the addresses to the police, and one of them for sure is like an abandoned type building. It looks like a house outside, but inside, like, there's no furnishing. There's just mattresses on the floor. And if the police went in there, they would see that, you know, and they'd be like, okay, there's something not right here. The other ones was like more furnished, you know, they'd be able to be deceived by that, you know, if they didn't really look around. But if they just went into this room, into the house, you'd see, you know, the mattresses on the floor and stuff. They never did anything. And they failed me. They failed the children. It angers me so much. If it was just me, if it was just, you know, Ann Lee abusing me, not trafficking children, I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care that they failed me. But they failed the children. They failed so many children. And they are jeopardizing lives. They are putting lives at risk just because they don't want to do their jobs. That's the plain and simple answer to it. They don't want to do their jobs, and they're probably involved in it.
Sure. Yes. They didn't need to even do an investigation. You're telling them where to go.
Right.
You're telling them where to go. Right. Knock on a door.
I gave them all the evidence that they needed. I had to go through a medical investigation, like a police medical exam, you know, which is intrusive. And when you've been abused so many times by so many different people, you don't want to do that. You know, you don't want that. And I did it again for the children. If it was just me, I would not have done it. I wouldn't have even told the police. I would have just been like, yeah, that was just me. I don't care. But I did it for the children, and I will continue to do it for the children. It angers me.
I have a question. And it's something that you and I have talked about, you know, on several occasions, because, you know, you've put yourself out there as, you know, almost the face of survivors in all this. What would you say to other survivors to maybe like help them come forward in some way, shape, or form? Maybe not making videos or anything, but what can, because we need survivor stories. Survivors, as Elle said, right. It's evidence. And what can we do to get? Because we know they're out there. What can we do?
Well, what I say to the survivors that I talk to, because many survivors contact me And it's because they feel safe. They feel safe to disclose to me, because many of them have never disclosed before, but they feel safe to disclose to me because I understand it, I get it, and they know that I'll believe them. And when you've been told for so long that no one's going to believe you, you're worthless and all the rest of it, you believe it. And it takes a long time to, believe the truth. And what I tell survivors is, it would be very good if they could come forward and talk about their stories. If they want to do videos, be cautious and be prepared for the backlash. Be prepared for people coming at you and saying horrible things. They say disgusting things, vile things. But I say to them that for me personally, I don't take it seriously, because why should an opinion of someone that is hiding behind a screen matter? Like, why should their opinion affect what I'm doing for other children? It shouldn't, because if they saw me in the street, they would not say that to my face. So why should I listen to someone that is such a coward and hiding behind a computer screen? Why should I let that opinion matter? It doesn't. And that's what I say to survivors. They have been through so much worse than the backlash that they will get from people after they come forward. They have been through so much worse. And if they can survive what they've already survived, they can survive anything. Because there is nothing worse, in my opinion, than to be violated at such a young age. There is nothing worse. And especially when it's by people that you should trust and by people that you think would be your main caregivers. So I tell them, focus on the children and focus on how they felt as a child and how lonely they felt as a child. And know that when they eventually come forward, that child that they're speaking to, because I have a picture in my head, like of a child when I'm doing my videos or whatever, I picture a child in my head whenever I'm getting, before I do a video and I'm like, should I actually do this video? And then I think of all the bad things that people are going to say. I picture a child in my head that I've seen, being abused and stuff. And I'm like, I'm doing it for that child today. And that's what I say to the survivors, do it for the children. If you don't want to do it for yourself, that's fine. Take a stand out of your body and do it for that child. Do it for a child that is being abused right now. Because we need to be a voice for those that are forced to be silent. And I will not stop saying that. It's going to become a cliche, I know. But I'm not going to stop saying it.
I don't think so.
We should be so lucky that it becomes a cliche.
Well, yeah, this is true.
In my opinion, the courage, if the public had a tenth of the courage and the selflessness that you're displaying, this would be over soon. And you continuing to do what you do will make a huge impact, and hopefully with every day that this is we're going to reach a time where this no longer exists on the face of this earth, and they couldn't have a better spokesperson, the survivors of this horrible abomination that's going on. And I'm in awe of you, Becky.
Well,
yeah, she's pretty cool.
Well, everyone knows that I'm a Christian, and Howard knows it because I preach to him all the time. but I'm a Christian, and I, as much as I love my mom and I love what she's done for me, and I do give her credit for she totally gave everything away that she had to bring me across here because she didn't have any money. But at the same time, I give the glory to God because He does the impossible, and He's going to do the same for children.
I don't know, but I think you've got some glory coming your way. In my humble opinion.
I don't do it for any glory.
No, I'm sure you don't.
You're gonna get it regardless.
Yeah.
We only have a few minutes. Didn't you were telling me something? I don't even remember, something about April. Something you wanted to do next April.
Right. I was just about to bring that up, actually.
Oh, were you?
So yeah.
Oh.
So all of these rallies that have been happening for Pizzagate gave me the idea of bringing together a rally for survivors to have their voice. And the reason I would say it would be April of next year is because April is Child Sexual Abuse Awareness Month. And I think it would just be so powerful to have survivors from all over the country to meet in one spot and just to tell their stories. And I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it because I just think it would be so powerful for not only people that don't get it, there's these people that still don't get it. It's not only for them, but there's children out there that are looking at these videos. They're looking at what is going on right now, and they're looking at us speaking out. But if they see all of these survivors just come together and have the courage and speak out for these children that are still going through it, they may just have the courage to speak out themselves. And not only that, the survivors deserve a platform where they can just speak out openly about what they went through because they've been silenced for so long. They deserve a voice. So if we could do this, if we could put a rally together next April just for survivors to have a voice, then, and I think, honestly, it should be in Washington because that's
absolutely
where all the corruption is. So
absolutely.
I think we're gonna make that happen.
I know
we're gonna make that happen.
I know I'll be involved,
really
I know this, Becky. We've had more questions tonight on Twitter and more positive feedback than any show we've done so far. So let me get in a quick question here. They're asking you, do you find it encouraging when you hear about the increased arrests that are going on in child trafficking and pornography? Is that encouraging to you?
It is encouraging, and well, it's very encouraging actually, because especially, and I don't want to go on because I know, we're short on time, but I like that President Trump is seeing what is happening to children. And I like that he is going to make a stand for the children. People don't believe it, but he is. He fired Comey, which was huge. So he is going to do something. He is doing something for the children. We're going to see a big break. I just believe it, with all of the backlash from the mainstream media right now and, the rest of it. We're going to see a break soon with those that are high.
Thank you so
Never enough time.
Never enough.
Especially tonight.
Thank you so much, Beck.
We love you, Beck.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being. And right about Trump, he needs our support. For that very reason.
Love you, Beck.
This is Ozzy Skateboard, and you're listening to UC